Hello and welcome to Talking Point here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw, that's Mr. Sean Michael Small, and welcome once more to a program. Good morning, Sean. Good to see you.
Morning, Keaton. I mean, second day, new look. It does feel like a whole new show, doesn't it?
It does. It feels a bit refreshed. We feel a bit more energy. Just a simple thing sometimes, as you say, as a new coat of paint really livens up the place a bit. But let's not waste any time. It's time for your daily review.
There are
Fresh coat of paint indeed. I think we're still waiting for the paint to dry. But anyway, daily review, let's start off with, of course, the most important news right now in Trinidad and Tobago, what is trending, and that is the Attorney General, Reginald Moore. Well, he held a press conference yesterday trying to inform the nation, and I use the word trying because I think we'll get into a bit more later on, but the reason why the state did not file its defense over the Vindra Naipal Coolman acquitted those who brought a civil case against the state for malicious prosecution.
And ultimately speaking, the situation, it's had some interesting reactions. The Attorney General, he was giving us a timeline of what he could determine just based on some quick preliminary investigation, and it called into question some of the procedures with regards to, well, informing the Office of the Attorney General, because the overall ministry is split into separate divisions, and the Solicitor General's office was supposed to handle this claim. The notification for the lawsuit was received, I believe it was signed for, as well as the fact that there was a file, but then, well, the file disappeared. A very interesting use of phrase. The Attorney General used pretty strong language, and it's interesting. This is not quite like other press conferences that we've seen from a government official. Of course, there's a lot of questions with regards to how far will the investigation, because he said he agrees with Minister Young's call for an investigation, and he also said he left no room for doubt. The police service, there's no question about how viable the case was or how defendable the lawsuit, the government's defense was.
Well, as pointed out yesterday by Karen Sishara, this should have been an easy case, given the fact that it's no longer in the hands of the police. The Director of Public Prosecutions would, of course, advise whether or not the state should go ahead and the police should charge these individuals. The issue now is a civil matter brought forward, and really, the Attorney General was also very careful in his choice of words. Disappeared.
I mean, we'll get into that later.
But it seems as though Trinidad and Tobago is no longer the land of the hummingbird. It's the land of disappearances, whether it be water pumps, steel beams, or in this particular case, taxpayers' dollars and a file from the Solicitor General's office.
Consider this for later. Is this really new, or is it just that we have now seen something publicly on this scale? And I'm choosing my words very carefully, Keaton. I'm choosing my words very carefully. Publicly, we are seeing it at this scale.
Well, as we continue with your daily review, the second story making headlines this morning, I'm not so sure if people were able to pick this up, given the fact that everything has been clouded by the story of the file or files disappearing. I would assume it's not just one file in this particular case. But the state has actually won its appeal. The Court of Appeal has delivered a landmark ruling in the civil appeal, providing guidance in relation to the novel remedy of the unexplained wealth orders provided for by the Civil Asset Recovery and Management and Unexplained Wealth Act. What does it mean? It means as though the state, as it continues to crack down on criminals, are also trying to ensure that those who are prosecuted and found guilty of their crimes, their assets, which unexplained for whatever reason as to how they acquired it, could be disposed of. And the Court of Appeal has given that landmark ruling. So it's very interesting. Have we seen this act come into play as yet? No. Have we? Have we?
I mean, literally, as you were explaining the story, that's the first thing that just popped into my head. like I get it. I understand the importance of the bill. And I understand the importance of the question, or perhaps maybe putting some opposition to the bill so that we could ensure that, listen, is this something that constitutionally in our democracy do we want? Because you're giving the state a significant amount of power that it did not have. But it's almost like a moot point if we don't see it actually used. And perhaps they had to wait, of course, now for this lawsuit to be resolved before they could re-implement it or begin to use it again. So it will be interesting to see, will it be like the procurement legislation where, okay, it's, you know, we have it technically, it's on the shelf, it stays on the shelf, or will we actually see something come of it? It's very interesting because, at least on the surface, you would think this will go after corruption.
Well, you think so, but here's the thing. I would measure the success of this particular act and this landmark ruling based off of the number of cases in which it is actually utilized and successfully utilized. In other words, it's time to crack down on individuals who possibly have 2, 3+ HTC houses. You see it all the time. You see individuals walking on the streets in plain sight with, and it's not real gold, by the way, it's gold-plated chains. Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's not real gold. But you see it taking place all the time. And to me here in TNT, I actually support the bill once it is done through the court systems.
But here's the thing. I didn't necessarily think about it. Yes, small-time corruption might be important to crack down because there's potentially so much of it.
It is important.
But there's also the fact that large single cases, you have to have both. If all we see is small-time crackdown, yes, it's important. I mean, but we could get as much as we want. If the large players are also not affected, like what we see with the criminal justice system overall, then I don't know if we could call it a success. It might be a partial success, but I think it'll be ultimately a disappointment.
Well, is that speaking from experience, or is that speaking from a lack of hope, or is it speaking just from how our law system operates?
How many small-time crooks do we get compared to how many big-time leaders and bosses and the actual people who make the decisions do we get?
No,
and I think that is affecting our criminal justice results overall. So I think it's safe to assume similar will happen with regards to corruption, money laundering, bribery, etc.
Let me ask you a question. What I think, what would, you know, public perception is important. And public perception is sometimes just as equal to reality.
Yes.
What would we say, or what would you describe as a big-time crook in TNT?
The irony is, I think, to some extent, politically, if you want to proclaim something like this a success, you actually have to successfully and transparently nab a corrupt politician. Because usually, with regards to legislation like this, the perception is they don't really implement it full out because they don't want to damage themselves. Right? That's the perception of the procurement legislation, not so?
Let me just swing something in here for a moment and think about this, right? The Integrity Commission this morning, well, I think yesterday actually, issued a list in the Gazette of individuals who are in breach of the Integrity and Life in Public Act, right? And that list includes government officials, some ministers, independent senators, officials from local government boards, officials from state boards, and this is from 2014 to 2022, which is 8 years, right? So the thing is that doesn't this come into play as well? Because you're supposed to declare your assets and liabilities. They have not done that. My question is, how does this act actually tie back into this? And two, exactly how are these individuals still allowed to continue with their careers in public life?
That's a good question. With elected officials, you might need more of a complex process to remove them. But with state boards and the like, one has to ask really and truly, if you have something, you know, marked against you, potentially at that level, should you be allowed to continue? Can't there be a mechanism to suspend? We're not talking removal, but just suspension, have your deputy or somebody else on the board act in your position, in your stead. Yes, I mean, on the surface, one would think that this bill will more or less also potentially deal with situations like that to fully investigate those situations. So again, unless, one, the public probably will have those questions. Well, we have unexplained wealth. We have people not declaring wealth. Why we not, put two and two together, make four, and, arrest some crooks if they are crooked? So there's that question to answer. But then there's also if there's a reason built into the bill that means that it does not apply, then why? Wouldn't that be some Section 34 almost kind of?
Well, let's be careful. We'll bring that up. But
just an if, folks. Just an if.
But also very much interestingly, I look forward to what the response from these individuals who are part of that list from the Integrity Commission. Just bear in mind 1 second, and not trying to go too far and too deep because we have one more story to get into. But there is a member of Parliament who's currently out on bail. All right, just bear that in mind for the sale of a vehicle.
Yeah.
All right?
And that's all the more reason why the public, I think, perception, you would need to land a politician.
And it's not, it's not the sale of the actual vehicle. Huh?
Yes.
It's how the vehicle was acquired.
But I feel as though if you and this is the tricky part, if you really want to look like you're serious, you kind of have to go beyond the norm, beyond the normal excuses and the normal explanations and the normal results.
I think so too. But as we continue with the final stories, and this one is actually rather contrasting of what Sean and I have spoken about thus far for the morning. The irony is, Sean, Trinidad and Tobago has actually seen an improvement in the annual corruption perception index. On Tuesday, it showed a 1-point improvement for Trinidad and Tobago's public sector, indicating a slightly less corrupt index than the year before. So we were able to move off a score of 41 in 2021, 42 in 2022, and we're now ranking 77 out of 180 countries tested. Corruption perception index, an improvement by 1 point.
I mean, listen, if you scored 0 on a test, Keaton, and the next time you were tested, you scored 1%, you improved, but you still failed by a lot. Now, we didn't necessarily fail by a lot, but we're middle of the pack. And to some extent, I think the public didn't necessarily like the idea that we're middle of the pack because, it doesn't take long to get into some territories where you're starting to be compared with countries where we would perceive them to not, be less than ideal places to live. And at the end of the day, just a 1-point increase in the score, it's barely it's more than 1% improvement, but we're talking, such a minor improvement. One could argue it could be a statistical blip. It's not that we actually improved, it's just how they measured it,
Sean,
how it was measured.
Come on.
2022. What else can I say?
Come on, let's be a bit celebratory. The fact that we've actually improved on something, we've actually done good in something.
Okay, now,
even if it's by 1 point.
Now I feel you're reaching for something to hang your hat on, for some good news. I'm not that impressed, but okay. You know what? I'll say this. At least we didn't drop. So we were able to maintain, and hopefully in the future we could continue to slowly rise. There's nothing wrong with slowly but surely improving. It's stable. So okay, silver lining. We did not fall further.
We didn't fall further, but we climbed, okay, by 1 point. And I can't stress on that.
No. We didn't climb, Keaton. Our hand moved from a lower handhold to a higher handhold. We didn't actually really climb any distance.
We can make it if we try just a little harder.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's your daily review here on Talking Points every day from 8:05 to 8:20 a.m. Folks, we take a quick break now, and when we return, we get into some more stories as per the crucial and perhaps the most frustrating of the day. We'll be right back after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
QR QRC Fete Royale. We home!
On Saturday, 4th February, from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m.
We present our honorary Royalians. Voice and the top 5 band.
Cass the Band.
Patrice Roberts.
Ricardo True and the 18 Band.
Nadia Batson.
And Rafi B.
First edition tickets on sale now at the QRC box office.
Bagalito Enterprises.
Online tickets available at ticketfederation.com
and suntix.com.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Talking Point, folks, on WSN, your content capital. Always remember, the only station that broadcasts in HD. And for this segment, we do have a video for you all to see. It was about an event that the opposition leader called bizarre. And maybe some in the legal fraternity, they might be wondering what's going on. So it's time for Cue This.
My very limited investigation to date has advised that the claim form and statement of case filed by these gentlemen was filed on the 29th of May 2020, and it was served on the Solicitor General's office on the 22nd of June 2020. An officer of that department has signed for acceptance of service on the 22nd of June 2020. On the 23rd of June 2020, the record shows further that a file was opened for the matter and that the file was sent to the Solicitor General for assignment. Thereafter, the file disappeared. We have retrieved from the registry of the High Court, because Mr. Young got onto the registry and said, these are all documents filed with the High Court. Can we see them? Because until yesterday, when we got those papers, the Office of the Attorney General, the Secretariat of the Attorney General, and I will come to that, had never seen those documents. The file disappeared on the 23rd of June 2020. Having been signed for as received on the 22nd of June 2020. On the 5th of August, a notice of application for default judgment in that matter was further served on the office of the Solicitor General. It was received on the 12th of November 2020, and the first that the Attorney General's Secretariat learned of the existence of this claim was when the judgment was delivered on Monday of this week. It seems incredulous, and it demands an explanation. I haven't said the file was misplaced. I said the file disappeared.
Okay, so disappeared.
I'm very careful about the language that I use.
Okay.
The file disappeared. I might go as far as to say, subject to the investigation, that it was caused to be disappeared. But I won't say that just yet. I am not seeking to pass the buck. I accept that the buck stops here. As Attorney General, I am responsible under the Constitution for the management and conduct of civil litigation.
So, folks, it was an interesting press conference because the Attorney General, he made some very definite statements there. He didn't necessarily beat around the bush with some of the things that he had to say. However, Keaton, he did say he is not trying to impugn the integrity of anyone within the Solicitor General office. So I'm paraphrasing. Anyone that's potentially involved in the matter. He was very careful not to try to put out any accusations directed or to imply anything, except the timeline that he presented heavily implies, especially with his last words there, where he said he chooses his words carefully, it disappeared, right? He's not ready yet to say that it was caused to be disappeared, but it disappeared. And there is, at least in one instance, paperwork that somebody in the office of the Solicitor General was aware of the case, except the Attorney General Secretariat was not aware of the case. And there was a memo that said that the Attorney General is supposed to be advised on these sorts of matters. So he himself is putting it out there that there are a lot of questions. It's interesting to see after the investigation to what extent will he claim responsibility. But, you know, there's a long road between here and there.
Well, he's already stated that he's not trying to pass the buck. He said it stops with him as the Attorney General. And he agreed that the investigation is needed. I don't think he would have suggested otherwise, knowing that the Minister Stuart Young would have said, listen, an investigation is needed. Sorry.
Well, remember, Karen had a different theory as to what might have played out. But possibly. I think the scenario, obviously she didn't know, the scenario is quite different to what we were expecting.
But apart from that, I think what it is that it now calls into question, with this one case, it now calls into question what are the operations and procedures within the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Because I'm now suspicious of not only this particular matter, but of others within the office as well. You see, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, he said that the case was filed in late May 2020 and was served to the Solicitor General's office a month later. A copy which was displayed to journalists, which is like a big file actually, was received by a ministry employee, and the file was opened for the case and assigned to a state attorney. So the thing is that the ministry's employee, as well as the state attorney, are now under the microscope. Furthermore, what to me is rather frustrating is that as much as I am trying to understand and accept the explanation, it seems as though this is an insult to the intelligence of all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and even the family of the acquitted, the families of those who are accused, and even the family of Indra Paul Kuhlman. It is rather intriguing to me that a file could just disappear. Mm-hmm. And he used the word sinister to describe this entire situation. To me, this is ridiculous, to say the least, and an investigation needs to be opened not only into how this disappeared, or to all those who had access to the file or handled the file, but again, how things operate within the Office of the Attorney General.
Well, first of all, I think one could make that argument for the public service in general, right? The thing is, I say every now and then, don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to incompetence. But this scenario, given how and what the Attorney General said, it's very hard to think it was just incompetence. And I think that's why he's saying, look, it disappeared, it was not misplaced. He did not say misplaced. So he's not trying to say, well, it was a mistake, right? And he's trying to say, no. This civil lawsuit, we had a very obvious defense that was reasonable, that we reasonably could have used in this situation. And my office, my actual office, was not even aware of the case. So yes, how the whole situation is run, because the immediate supervisor, I would assume, is the Solicitor General. Of course, I don't know how many lines, how many levels of authorities between the Solicitor General and the people who are actually working on this individual case and situation. Who does the state attorney directly report to, etc., etc. But it seems as though I could understand, and I do think it's reasonable for the AG to basically say, look, we were not aware. There is a potential that we were not made aware purposefully. He's not necessarily ready to say that, but it's heavily implied. And we need an investigation to solve this because And I think he did go on into how the ministry was run and the breakdown and what it could signify, which is why he apparently is willing to take ultimate responsibility. But in this case, I think that means like, look, this situation happened with a subgroup, you need to fix it.
What was interesting to me is that he said that the Office of the Solicitor General and the Attorney General Secretariat, the Attorney General Secretariat, in particular him, was not made aware until this judgment was passed on Monday.
No, yes.
So, bear this in mind, folks. Around May 2020, the file was served to the Solicitor General's office, and around a month later, it disappeared.
But not just that, also the notice with regards to the assessment for the award of damages, that second part as well, the Attorney General's office.
Yes. But to me, what we need to understand is that some might be asking, so when were they made aware and when is it that they were going to inform the public of it? Because it now seems like a huge scandal. And based off of what the Attorney General said, it is a scandal.
It is.
But the reason why they couldn't come out and speak to the public before is because it was still before the courts, right? It was still before the courts.
Keaton, based on what he said, the Office of the Attorney General, his secretariat, the people that directly speak to him and report to him about things, weren't aware of the case until the damages were awarded until the end.
I know that they were not made aware of the case.
Right.
But the Office of the Solicitor Generals would have still had an idea.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
right?
We think.
We are assuming based off of the timeline that was given. Again, we can only deliberate based off of what has been presented to us. We have to wait the investigation.
I think the issue is all that the Attorney General knows for sure and could tell us is that someone in the Solicitor General office received the court papers about the case. I don't think he technically even could prove whether or not the Solicitor General was aware of the situation or not just yet. So all of that is up in the air with regards to who might be responsible, who did what in this situation.
So then the question is, how many cases are the Attorney General or the Attorney General's Secretary unaware of? That's something to also question, right? Again, the process of how this takes place within the office and how many cases are they unaware of, because it will be rather incredible if something similar happens again. And I'll be very honest with you, we live in Trinidad and Tobago, and I would not doubt the possibility of something like this happening again. But we await the outcome of the investigation. The second part, which was very interesting to me, is that the Attorney General says the state plans to appeal the judgment.
Yeah.
And this is something that we spoke with Karen yesterday. She says it is possible. They can go ahead and do it, but it's going to be incredibly difficult.
Well, so the AG did say, you know, any lawyer that represents himself has a fool for a lawyer. I think the actual saying is a fool for a client, but it effectively works out to be the same thing. And I think he might have misquoted it for the correct context in that he thinks that there's grounds for an appeal, but he will seek essentially a second opinion. He's not just going to go by his own opinion.
Plan is to appeal it, but let's get a second opinion before we actually go ahead with the action. To me,
in this case, I think I'm happy for that.
I would just like to tie it back into something that we spoke about yesterday. I raised this yesterday as part of the discussion, and forgive me for I'm in not trying to be facetious in any way, but it does arise at the fact that you are seeking a second opinion when it is very difficult to win your appeal. And this is according to all reports, and this is even according to Karen yesterday on the program. So there's already an understanding of the level of difficulty involved in going ahead with your appeal of the judgment, waiting that second opinion. But let's use the example, and this is why I say it's always something to fool the population, and it's always something to really mislead. Because I brought up the instance of Mr. Bash and AV oil and gas drilling. To me, the opinion, the legal opinion, was made public. And they had an excellent case. They could have gone to the Privy Council, and they chose not to. They chose not to appeal that. But they're looking at appealing this. Where, at what point in time exactly is there that decision? Where's the intelligence? But there is no intelligence involved. It's only favors, isn't there?
Hold on. Here's the interesting part. There's two parts to this. First of all, Karen already explained yesterday, the government had its chance, it had its opportunity, it failed to utilize the opportunity. So now to come and say, oh, we want to appeal now, the court will probably not look too kindly upon that. It's like, well, where were you? You didn't have to appeal this because you could have defended it in the first instance.
And rightfully so.
Right. So the second thing is, and I think another thing that the court will not look kindly upon is, what you're asking the court to do might set a precedent that might not be good. So because now the precedent is, oh, Johnny could come lately, right? Granted, these are extreme circumstances, so maybe it won't affect wider situations, but the core of it is Johnny come lately wants to, oh, you were late, but you still want to do it. If we allow that, other people will argue that. But here's the interesting point, Keaton. Let's just say he's successful. Let's just say Johnny come lately actually wins both the right to appeal and the appeal itself. That sets a precedent of the government successfully coming late and appealing things, and they could do so with AV drilling.
Well, well, you see, this is the reason why I think, and perhaps we need to seek some clarification. What is the timeline? Exactly what is the timeline? Because as Karen pointed out, the acquitted had 4 years to put forward their civil matter, and they put it in on the last day. So at what is actually the length of time, or as you say, the length of stay now, that they have in relation to appealing this particular case? Because, you see, I don't know how many years it is, but then and again, an investigation in Trinidad and Tobago takes almost forever. And if this investigation, they said an investigation has not been initiated. The investigation has not been launched. They just plan an investigation. What are we going to get out of that? To be honest with you, I do not expect anything. Why? Because at the end of the day, Sean, unfortunately, just like the Vincent Nelson matter, this particular case is just going to fall on deaf ears and blind eyes come in the next 2-3 weeks. That is what it's going to be like. The key to this actually going forward and ensuring that there is some level of accountability, and I have to, be honest with the public. If you had an opposition that kept stepping on the toes of the government and ensured that they were always tiptoeing rather than walking comfortably as they are, then rest assured this will not fall on deaf ears and blind eyes. To me, it is now up to members of the public, or even those who share the role of parliamentarians, such as opposition members, to ensure that this does not die a natural death as with everything. Because I'm so sorry, it's just that the investigation hasn't started. There's the intention, but it has not been executed. Right,
so you mentioned the opposition, and of course we talk about their failures in the past, and it's, generally speaking, on every issue, it's almost always the same failure. In this case, is it that they're just so ineffective now and their reputation of being effective is so down into the tubes? That's more or less why, because they did make a statement about the situation, but just, my readings of it, to me it's more of the same and it doesn't really mean anything. Meanwhile, at the very least, I get it, it's just words, and anyone could come and talk initially, but the AG, to some extent, he did kind of put himself in a corner with his statements, with what he communicated. If he does not follow through, and I don't think that Reginald Amor is a man, at least I hope not, that is going to say what he just said and then literally just let it fall apart and die into the ether. I hope not.
I hear you. I share in your hopes, but at the same time, what dampens my hopes is that Reginald Amor is still the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, which unfortunately is a politicized office, and he is in a role in which he has to be a part of the government of Trinidad and Tobago.
And perhaps this is where, and Karen has said this, I think at least twice on this show, that the AG is in a special circumstance and potentially should be separated from cabinet.
Potentially, it should be. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on Talking Point. When we return, well, we welcome a very special guest this morning to kick off our youth conversations here on Talking Point. We return after this.
The best birthday tickets are at thebesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokaram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Make sure you get tickets early, cause them tickets selling already. We have icons, yes, we have legends, and the young upcoming sensations. Become party, social commentary. We have something for everybody. Pressure for them, joker, faker, and lows. Come to Kaiso House.
Kaiso House in the Barricade, Queen's Park, Savannah, January 27th to February 17th, 2023. Tickets available at
Kaiso House in the Savannah, Crosby's Music Center, St. James, Kamule Restaurant, San Fernando, Bursa Complex, Grand Bazaar, and Tuco Main Office, Jerningham Avenue, Belmont. Meet me in the Barricade.
On Friday, February 3rd, at the Central Bank Auditorium, it's Light Up the Night, Volume 3, a veteran Calypso showpiece. Come, enjoy a night of stars to light up your night with Tobago Crusoe, D. Alberto, Chalk Dust, Ray Holman, Leston Paul, Short Pants, The Bagman, and Alexander the Great. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. at the Central Bank Auditorium. Tickets cost $250. Get your tickets now at Crosby St. James. Mesa Limited at 628-5092 or 628-5094. And at the Central Bank box office on February 2nd only. Call for reservations at 621-2288, extension 6345. Don't miss this veteran Calypso showpiece, Light Up the Night, Volume 3, Friday, February 3rd.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white, and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
The young people of Trinidad and Tobago are truly probably what will lead us into a state of nirvana. Probably a brighter future, and I'm hoping that exists. But are the young people given a fair opportunity to voice their concerns, their dreams, their hopes, and probably express their opinions on current affairs here in Trinidad and Tobago? Well, it's very important. Does it happen? Well, to speak more about this, Sean Michael Small and I were joined by youth advocate this morning. I'm sure you've heard of her before. Miss Chrisette Benjamin is on Talking Point. Good morning, Miss Benjamin.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And if I may say so, she's so committed to this conversation. She traveled from San Fernando to Port of Spain this morning just to join us. So thank you very much, Ms. Benjamin. We appreciate the commitment. Let's get straight into the conversation. We know there are many avenues, such as the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Council. We know that there is a Trinidad Youth Parliament. These are just few of many that exist. But is it enough? Even though that Youth Parliament takes place annually, what transpires following that? Is there enough opportunity? Are young people in Trinidad and Tobago really, their voices, are they heard? Is it listened to? What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a really interesting question in reference to the Trinidad and Tobago Youth Council, as well as I am a past participant in the National Youth Parliament as well. I will be honest, the innovative ideas, the research that is brought forward by the youth parliamentarians, they may be listened to, but when it comes to translating that into action, you don't necessarily see that happening. Because I think the topics that they choose to youth parliaments are really good topics. For example, when I took part in the 18th National Youth Parliament with persons like Kaleem, Ali, etc., the topic was on bridging the digital divide. That cohort would have pitched some really, really nice ideas, but the reality is we did not see that translate into reality. And you tend to see that happening because in this society, in the Trinidad and Tobago society, you have so many needs but limited resources. So the thought process is, how do you bridge that? But going back to the topic of giving young people a voice and an active role in decision making, that's really a concern to me, because my research shows that only 2.02% of youth under the age of 30 represent us in parliament across the Caribbean region. And that's really interesting. That's the researchers by the Inter-Parliamentary Union. So young people make up a large percentage of the population, but yet still you have under 3% representing us in decision-making, policy-making, etc.
Well, so you said that, okay, you all got some topics, you all put forward some good ideas, or at least ideas based on, because of course now education is such a major push, so at least in Trinidad you would think that the youth of today might be armed with knowledge and information that maybe some of the experienced politicians might not have in the technical aspects of various issues. But you didn't necessarily see it come to fruition. Of course, there's the reality of, well, operating in the country, scarce resources. Have there been any attempt maybe to have a dialogue so that the reasoning behind your ideas and the reasoning behind leaders' decision-making, maybe some sort of middle ground could be found to try to see how ideas such as what you're presented would be better utilized, or which ones could come to fruition? Any sort of communication or dialogue?
Realistically, there has not been a formal channel to merge those 2 points that you made. I do acknowledge, and it would be wrong of me to not acknowledge, that the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service has reached out to many civil society organizations and young people to draft its new policy. Hence, you had the change of age, because I believe before it was 30, now you consider youth up to the age of 35. And a lot of the programs that you see coming out, personally me, where I'm originally from Rio Claro, I see these programs really targeting youth at risk, and it really answers what we answered in the consultation. But beyond that, and beyond some of other pressing needs, I feel like there's still this gap that needs to be meshed.
Well, you mentioned 3% according to, well, less than 3% actually, according to research of youth actually representing, being represented within parliaments across the Caribbean, which is very, very interesting. To me, if I notice that, I would immediately say, listen, there's absolutely no point, or there's no obvious channel in which my voice can be heard. Is it something that obviously it it's not motivating to youth to get more actively involved. So even though these councils and these channels exist, the mere fact is in the avenues which they really matter, such as policy making, policy decisions, and legislative implementation, isn't that just not motivating at all for youths to actually try and get more involved?
I agree. There are several factors that I feel contribute to this low percentage. And it starts with young people not wanting to get involved in politics. And can you blame them, though? Because we see politics being a very nasty game from time to time. And it's not just in Trinidad and Tobago, it's across the region. You see videos going viral from time to time with the conduct of parliamentarians. And I think my cry to parliamentarians is to understand that Parliament represents society. So whatever happens within there, you can't be shocked with how the outer society acts as well. So keeping that in mind, I think that is what dissuades youth from wanting to get involved. And another contributing factor that I have noticed, I have colleagues in the youth space who have an interest in politics, and when they get involved, you have other young people saying, why am I involved in politics, this and that and that. So that's another push factor from young people wanting to get involved. Now, you all may ask if I have an interest in politics, and my answer is no. And the reason why my answer is no is because I realize that I can't influence policy without actually being a member of parliament or doing that representative governance. I think it takes a person with, according to trainees, you have to let things glide off your back, because I think MPs have a really difficult job trying to meet the needs of their constituents. And the reality is, and I'll always say this, you have unlimited needs, limited resources, and it's really to try and find the best way to address that and actually keep your word. But there are other roles that you can play in shaping the development of your society. And for me, I do that with my job in terms of doing research. I work at Parliamericas and contributing to gender equality by creating tools and recommending other policies that parliamentarians can do throughout the Caribbean region, but also within my own role being civically engaged through my non-governmental organization, the I Believe in Success Foundation. So that's my logic behind not directly being involved in or wanting to be a member of parliament.
Well, it's fine you have found your own path, but I do need to ask a follow-up. Would you like, though, despite finding an alternate route, to see more youth involved in politics, whether it is in a youth arm or actively in Parliament, in the Senate, in the House, maybe even a minister? Would you like to see more representation? Because also it comes with the fact that it's a different perspective and potentially fresh ideas. Because, and the reason why I ask that is, if the youths aren't willing to go, or if a lot of the youths aren't willing to go, and we assume a lot of the good youths aren't willing to go, we will be left with a very limited pool of candidates who will probably be more inclined to just follow what they already see, and we won't see any sort of change or improvement.
Agreed. I do. Most definitely, I support any young person who right now want to put themselves up in a route of politics. It doesn't matter what side, we need young people and our voices to be heard in Parliament, because the fact of the matter is, it's the same argument with gender equality, where you need more women in Parliament, because a man can't make decisions on behalf of a woman. As much as they may do the research, I feel like women may more be able to advocate for women's needs. The same comes with youth. A person who is 45 years old, they might have their assumption of what young people went through back in their days, but young people today, they know what they are going through, they know what they would want, they have different ideas, they have a different perspective on society, and that is what we need when it comes to policy making and decision making. So yes, by all means, we need more young people in Parliament. And with that research I did, it's even more interesting that under 13% are under the age of 40. So that goes to show that age gap in terms of decision making that happens in our parliaments throughout the Caribbean.
It's many interesting points that you raised. I'm sorry we don't have amount of time that I would like to actually get further into this, and this is why I'm saying, I look forward to welcoming you more on the program. But kind of tying back into what my co-host just suggested and what you said, it doesn't matter what side, get involved, get more active. But at the same time, I'm thinking that this word, politics alone, it seems as though people interpret it as if you're political, it's a stain upon you as a person.
It's like a four-letter word.
Exactly. and therefore, some people might think, listen, if I get involved now, or if I get active now, it's going to actually mess up my future, because people are already going to label you as a certain individual, and therefore, it's going to be difficult for me to progress. I think that might be one avenue. So,
yes.
It seems as though that you know exactly what I'm speaking about. You've witnessed this and experienced this.
Yes, experienced it. People are confused with my political side because I vote based on quality of the candidate. So I originally from Rio, I still vote within the Rio area, and I support my current MP. However, there are also persons within the other political side that I fully support as well. So that confuses people from time to time where I stand.
Which is good.
Agreed.
Which is absolutely good. I'm
Which
glad.
Which part is good?
The
stance or the confusion?
Both, actually. Your stance is admirable, and it is my hope that more people in Trinidad and Tobago, listen, let's be honest with ourselves. It's going to be extremely difficult to actually change the thinking of the elderly and those who are more seasoned than we are. But it is good that you're causing confusion, because let me state it out there. I think just from, and I'm so sorry that this is an actual fact in 2023, but from the color of your skin, from the color of my co-host's skin, the color of my skin, people automatically already label you as we know who you are. It doesn't matter. Listen, you can say one thing and they hear or interpret it as something completely different.
Correct.
But Ms. Benjamin, I really admire the fact that you said you vote based off of quality. That seldom does that exist here in TNT.
Well, based on what my co-host just said, people can assume, okay, we know who you're voting for, we know who you're voting for. They probably will assume who I'm voting for, although maybe I'm not so apparent at first glance. But while I agree, okay, causing confusion is good, breaking the mold. The fact that people might be confused at your stance, because I think in different ideological perspectives, I've noticed the same thing. Isn't that somewhat frustrating and disappointing that people want to just put you in a box? And I mean, shouldn't we now be looking to try to get people more accustomed to not just, okay, it has to be one or two?
Agreed.
I
would say it's not frustrating, at least to me, because I understand where I want to see Trinidad and Tobago, where I want to see my community, and I say the message over and over again. And as the point is what people choose to hear. I've been saying this over and over and over again. I vote based on the quality of candidates. And it also draws back down to, it has so many talented, gifted persons that I know that can transform Trinidad and Tobago, but they will not offer themselves up. So that's a whole other point by itself. I understand why, but it takes people making bold moves to make a difference in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Ms. Benjamin, as we look to wrap this into my final question to you is, politics, they often say, is a reflection of society. But I always wish that there was a separation. And sometimes I realize that even those within the sacred halls of Parliament separate themselves from society. It seems as though they're completely separated from the reality of the situation, how people are, or what they experience on the ground. To me, I'm trying to figure out at this point, is the issue for youth in Trinidad and Tobago, is it Trinidad and Tobago or is it politics? Is it society or is it politicians? That is really those who are silencing young people.
It's multifaceted. It's really, really hard to pinpoint it into one direct factor that leads to it. There's so many factors. You really can't just say it's one thing.
And that's a fair answer.
That's a politically correct answer. It's a good answer. It's probably the right answer for you this morning.
Ms. Benjamin, time really is always a factor, and there's a lot more that can be discussed. But as an introductory conversation, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your presence, for sharing with us your experience and your opinion, and perhaps the reality of what is out there. So thank you very much, and we look forward to welcoming you on more on the program.
And thank you for having me.
And the girl from San Fernando came all the way to Port of Spain just to be with us this morning. That says a lot.
That does a lot of effort. Wish we could see more from other areas of society, just saying.
Ms. Benjamin, keep up the good work. We'll be in touch. Folks, we have to take a break here on Talking Points, but when we return, the phone lines are open, and you're free to express your thoughts and opinions.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Double murder recorded in Rio Claro. Attorney General launches investigation into judgment of 9 accused. Opposition senator accuses AG of insulting the intelligence of the public. And internationally, overnight Russia attack kills 3 in Ukraine. Now for the details. 2 men were gunned down, pushing the murder toll past 60. The shooting occurred at Kush Trees Navit Village, Rio Claro, on Wednesday. A 3rd person was also shot and taken to hospital for medical treatment. Attorney General Reginald Amor says the Office of the AG had never seen the files that were put before the court, which resulted in 9 accused being awarded millions of dollars.
The Office of the Attorney General, the Secretariat of the Attorney General, and I will come to that, had never seen those documents. The file disappeared on the 23rd of June, 2020. Having been signed for as received on the 22nd of June, 2020. It seems incredulous, and it demands an explanation.
The AG also responded as to whether there will be an appeal of the judgment.
There are aspects of what is pleaded in that case by the attorneys who represented the accused, led by Mr. Anand Ramlogan, that in my view provide a basis for an appeal, but I am not going to advise myself.
Well, in immediate response to the AG's conference, opposition Senator Jayanti Lachmidial said the AG called a press conference to insult the intelligence of the entire population with the equivalent of the dog ate my homework excuse. She added that Amor has tried to make a sensational splash with deflection and distraction, like the case of Houdini and the vanishing elephant. Speaking on the disappearance of the file, she questioned how it could have disappeared, but the appearance was entered and attorneys showed up and participated in the assessment of damages. Lachmidial calls for the AG to provide a list of all the matters where persons obtained default judgment against the state or where no witness statements were filed by the internal or external attorneys retained by the state. In international news now, a rescue operation in a Ukraine city is continuing Thursday morning after a Russian missile hit a residential neighborhood in the eastern Ukrainian city Wednesday night, killing at least 3 people, according to a local military official. 8 people were wounded and at least 2 more may be in the rubble from the attack. Well, that was your news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN Content Capital. Sean Michael Small, you look rather excited this morning. I think the fresh look is doing you well.
I mean, you know, everybody could do with a facelift. Isn't that what they say?
Well, I suppose so.
Not really. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, folks.
I'm not. I think everybody could do with a facelift.
I mean, like literally?
No, don't ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. He's joking. He's just joking.
Please don't go and pump cement into your veins to get rid of those wrinkles. It's not advisable.
Just quick random thoughts. I do wonder, with the pandemic, how did all of those practices, what happened to that? Was there a fall, a rise, since healthcare was so focused on COVID? Did those things, did that situation get worse? It's interesting, huh? All of these things are still technically still there.
So they actually over the weekend, well, the weekend that just passed, a volcano in Davie, a mud volcano in Davie, erupted. And many people were rushing because they were trying to get the mud in order to do facials. So if it is, you see spa specials now with mud volcano facials and the prices are absolutely ridiculous, you know why.
Folks, I will just say this. I'm not a doctor nor a dietitian, but I would advise you to be careful with your diet. Try to eat balanced. Be careful with your sleep. Drink a lot of water. Watch your sugar.
This man is telling you to watch what you eat. He does that very well. I can vouch for him. I can speak for him. You watch what you eat very, very well. And so do I. But anyway, let's open up the phone lines now, ladies and gentlemen, where you, the viewer, can share your thoughts and opinions with us. Call in and join us on the program. Numbers are open until about 9:26 a.m. And please, I ask that you just be mindful of your time. Of course, mute your television when calling in. And I think there's something that you just wanted to raise?
No, well, before we accept callers, we do have a question for them.
Yeah, so this is your question of the day. All right, well, I suppose I should just... We're still working the facelift. The question of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is, do you accept the Attorney General's explanation as to why the state failed to file its defense over the malicious prosecution case? So we're asking you, the viewer, do you accept the Attorney General's explanation as to why the state failed to file its defense over the malicious prosecution case? We have a caller on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Yes, I accept, and let me get to the bottom of this. Firstly, my disappointment with the Attorney General yesterday. The Attorney General needs to understand that Vidya Naipal, V.S. Naipal is our Nobel laureate, who died, our Nobel laureate. That is not Venja Naipal Kuhlman, and I was upset yesterday to listen to him over and over and over say Vidya Naipal.
Yes.
Okay, let's get that out of the way. Secondly, there are three arms of the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs that were involved in this. The Chief State Solicitor Office, the Solicitor General, and the Case Management Unit of the Attorney General, which is what they call the Secretariat, which basically tracks the cases to make sure everything is running. Those three departments will then have to have a conspiracy within the Attorney General, because you tell me three departments that should know what was going on. Because once this file reaches there, and the Attorney General tried to make it feel as if somebody come and drop the file for the cleaner or for the person at the reception desk, and the file disappeared. That is not what happened. People need to understand that he has no, he does admit, he does not know, but there seems to be a huge level of incompetence within that Attorney General's office, which they need to fix. It is instructive that the Freedom Chambers has gone up against the state on so many occasions and won their cases.
Yes.
It tells me that the Attorney General's office, the Chief Solicitor, Chief State Solicitor, and the Solicitor General, they need to get some better attorneys.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, caller.
I will say, though, I do think that if you're more or less facing an uphill battle, depending on the case that you receive, with how the criminal justice system is, I'm not entirely sure I'll put the blame on the lawyers that we have for the side of the state completely. I mean, it could be right. It's hard to know which way the details go.
Let's put up the phone line so that the viewers get an opportunity to answer the question. But in the meantime, we have a caller on the line with us from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I don't know if you all could unravel this to me. The Attorney General said that the file disappeared on the 23rd of June. Now, I am at a loss to find out how he specifically came up with that date. Was it that the file would have been seen every day up to the 22nd, and it just disappeared on the 23rd? And he should have, if that is the case, should have mentioned at around what time? Example, 10:30, 11 o'clock, or something like that. I'm at a loss. How did he come up with that specific date? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, go ahead.
Well, I think what happened was they knew that the file existed and was sent to the Solicitor General office. I believe that's where it was sent to, on the 22nd. And then there's no paper trail or way of tracking or account for it after that. So technically, you could say it is an assumption because there's no more evidence to say where the file went or what happened to the file after the 22nd. They know it went to the Solicitor General office and that's it.
But the caller raised an excellent point in the sense that using your explanation, which is reasonable, then he should not have given a specific date pending the investigation. He should have said it disappeared around the time that it was sent to the Solicitor General's office, which was on the 22nd. That was the last time we actually knew where the file was. So to give a specific date, especially coming from an attorney at law with an investigation pending,
I don't have a problem because that's the date where we lost account or track of it. So technically, that is the date it disappeared.
Who was the last person that signed for it? I think that is key to the investigation. Obviously, we have a caller now with us from Chaguanas. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
You're live.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Bear in mind that a file being lost in the government service is nothing new. Many times it will be quite innocent. Files could be 2 or 3 files could be with one another, and all you do is you make a temporary file and continue the matter. And the length of time they found out that the file disappeared, they had more than enough time. Secondly, somebody was negotiating the amount of damages these guys get. Who instructed it? Right? So you don't need no big set of investigations. And the next thing, this is normal with these politicians. They interfere with public servants doing the job. The most blatant was with the Weimar, when they closed down that highway from north to south for years because the minister went and interfered in the matter because they used to go and slaughter scarlet ibis illegally and cook for him. And he offered all of them free house and all kind of things. And all this is documented in the court proceedings. Anybody could go up in the High Court and get the documentation. Right? So the important point is the one I asked about yesterday. Unfortunately, Karen didn't hear the are they going to pursue recovery of that money from those who was responsible?
All right.
It's an easy thing to find out who is responsible. They have the name of the person who signed for the fine.
Pursuing money, right?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We have another caller.
We have another caller. Very quickly, the question of the day is, do you accept the Attorney General's explanation as to why the state failed to file its defense over the malicious prosecution case? That is the question. Caller on the line with us from Yarrow. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I will accept whatever the Attorney General bring forward to our nation, but I will have concern. So I will agree to him to an extent. But what I want to say to you this morning, Keaton and Sean, is that and I could be wrong. You could correct me if you can. I understand in the past that the Attorney General got half a dozen lawyers, new lawyers, to come on in the framework to give him support. What is the cost of that, and what is the cost of investigation for all this time? It's not just 20 million we're talking about. It's way more than that. So that's just my contribution, because it's very alarming to the condition I'm in agriculture. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, caller, for your contribution this morning. Caller on the line with us from Digger Martin.
Hi, all. Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
The something sinister Reginald Armour is talking about is probably COVID. Yet again displaying gross negligence, because the courts were closed in March 2020 and there was a huge list of what was not deemed fit unless stated by the judge. And the courts were very chaotic, I can tell you that, because we, in our family, we have a design matter outstanding for the longest while, and everything has been postponed. But missing files are common in government, so maybe it's like the classified documents in the US just went missing. But one last thing, Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj said that even if they didn't meet the timelines down to the last morning, they could have applied to set aside the judgment. And now what they can do is just have a one-person task force to find out the system that was in place and to ask why did they not get a transcript from the High Court. That could be done in 2 weeks. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much. Let's just put up the question of the day once more for the viewers to see, please. Do you accept the Attorney General's explanation as to why the state failed to file its defense over the malicious prosecution case? Caller on the line with us from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let me put a little twist on this. The outrageous say that in New York Taylor comes to making suit. The man is a master. If you show him a man coming around the corner, he could even make him a suit and don't even measure. I'm talking about suit sitting down correct, expertly made and fitting perfect. Later.
Thank you very much, caller. I think I'm just going to have to...
It's which song? Come on, Keaton,
Teacher Kosi say, if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open. You can call in, and the numbers will be on your screen shortly. We just have about 8 more minutes before we have to close the phone lines. So I don't know if you'd care to answer the question, if you whether or not to accept it.
I will accept it, because, and I think some of the callers brought this up. I think San Fernando might have brought this up. And some of the others alluded to this. I don't think, I will have a hard time thinking that negligence or incompetence got this bad. And if it did get this bad, I'm not saying that it's impossible. If it did get this bad, well, again, yes. Heads have to roll either way. Whether it's incompetence, because you can't allow a mistake at this level to happen, right? Whether public, private, it's not just $20 million, as was pointed out by one of the callers. There's also all of the fees for the original case itself and the legal fees and the lawyer fees. Then, of course, there is this matter as well. And the time spent in it for the lawyers, for the court. We already have our justice system that moves at a snail's pace.
See, the thing is, I will accept it on the basis that I have nothing else to go for right now. That's the only reason why I can accept it.
Will you accept the alternate theory of incompetence?
Of course I accept the alternate theory of
No.
incompetence.
Do you think that is more likely?
Of course I do. Because I don't think it takes big brains to figure out exactly what is going on here. Because as pointed out by the caller from Chagonas, very, very crucial. Compensation was still negotiated. Damages were still negotiated. And that is what was put forward. How is it they went ahead with those negotiations if the file simply did not exist?
Well,
so by the way, this is like as somebody said, a conspiracy.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think what he implied with his statements is that only part of the office, so the caller from Chagonas, he pointed out the three, or was it San Fernando?
San Fernando.
The Office of the Solicitor General, the
Office of the Attorney General Secretariat.
And what's the third one? It's the third one I can't remember.
Right now, yeah.
But my point is, it seems as though the Attorney General is implying heavily, he didn't outright state it. Well, technically he kind of did when he said that the Secretariat of the Attorney General was not aware of the case. The case! So it implies that somebody was responding on behalf of the ministry, but the people at the top were not made aware.
All this crucial to
right?
the investigation.
So if we take that to be true, and I don't think politicians are of the practice of directly outright lying, right? They might omit the truth, they might skate around the truth, they might manipulate statistics, but to literally make a direct claim that is a direct lie like that, at least anyway, yes, technically Reginald Moore, he did a thing. He did a thing in Miami. So let me walk a little bit of that back. But something like this, Keaton, if you lie like that and you get caught, or even if you just fail to deliver, I think the results will be even worse for you.
If you lie like that and you get caught, who's going to be the one to actually correct you if you're wrongdoing?
Technically speaking, the voters when your party's voted out of office.
Really? We've had a two-party system of government for how long now? And what are the two main parties?
Tobago has proven all we need is one disruption to the apple cart.
Heavily debatable about Tobago. But the point remains that the Office of the Attorney General is more profitable for those than the National Lotteries Control Board.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
You'll quicker win something because of, I want to say, stupidity, ignorance. Is that the correct word? Or what is it? Don't mistake malice for incompetence.
But I honestly think there has to be some kind of malice of this, because the number of instances of incompetence, right? I could see maybe it
deliberate
started,
incompetence.
Right. I could see where it started with one mistake, and maybe someone was foolish enough to think, well, I just need to hide my mistake and this will all go away. And depending on how it goes, that's not going to happen. But because there's too many times when the professor's right, there was enough time to rectify the situation if the file disappeared. But my point is, again, the people who would have rectified the situation, or at least claim to, they say that they didn't even know about the case. And the people who knew about the case, potentially the ones who caused the file to disappear.
Call on the line with us from San Fernando. Hello, good morning.
Gentlemen, Sean, you just said that politicians are not in the business of outright lying.
Sorry,
right?
caller, could you just hold on a
caller.
second? Could the directors please close the mic? Thank you. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Yes.
Sean, I couldn't read this. Sean just said something about politicians and outright lying, right?
I did have to walk it back a little bit, given the current person we're speaking about.
And let me say this to you, Sean. I want to answer this in one way.
Sorry.
Goodbye.
I was not.
It's just
the caller's not laughing at you. Huh? Bear that in mind. The caller's not laughing.
No, it's
at
fine.
you.
It's fine if he's laughing at me. It's fine if he's laughing at me.
He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at the fact that you are an intelligent person, and you know that in front of our faces, they know that the public is none the wiser.
But the thing is, how politicians in general lie, it's generally going to have certain ways so that they could always maneuver themselves out of the statement that they made, right? So the more direct that they give, the more direct of a statement they make, well, it's either a big situation, crime or corruption that they're trying to cover up, or it kind of has to be true because it's not worth it.
All right, we have to go for a break. we have to go for a quick break. But if you can give me an example, because I know you're trying to be fair and reasonable in your argument, but if you can give me an example, because I will simply say that I disagree with you on the basis that, again, if politicians are caught lying, who is going to raise the fact that it's a blatant lie? And two, who is actually going to correct them or prosecute them if necessary because of their lying? That is what we have to bear in mind. So that is my grounds for disagreeing with you. So let's take a quick break here on Talking Points, and when we return, well, we conclude proceedings for this morning.
The best laptops and tablets are at thebesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship Mac Bean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I want to thank all our callers this morning for their contribution to the program. And, well, that caller from San Fernando, honestly,
I can't fault him.
It's not that I fault him, actually. I appreciate that call because it just lightens things a little bit.
Yeah.
It lightens things a little bit. But thank you very much to everyone for their contribution. Sean, I actually... I understand your explanation. I understand where you're coming from. I think it's absolutely reasonable and fair what you are suggesting. But at the same time, because I am not aware of who, as you said, who policed the police.
Yes.
And you have the PCA. And even though the PCA came out with statistics last year about so many cases being solved and so many issues being resolved, it has not actually solved the core problem.
I think at the end of the day, even if it was malicious, even if this was somebody undermining the ministry, regardless, the ministry itself, what you said, their processes, their procedures, their measures of control, their lines of authority in reporting, all of these things, there's a deficit, obviously, somewhere, and it needs to be rectified. And if that means that heads at the top still have to roll, well, then they have to roll, because and now comes the technical part, and the caller from Chagonas might have an opinion on this. He gave us tomorrow. Who is responsible for that administrator? Is it the minister or is it the permanent secretary? With regards to because, ministers, they have authority, but in theory, they're not supposed to have total dictatorships over the ministry.
They often say that the permanent secretary is really powerful in the
Although
ministry.
we've seen where that's not always the case in modern times, right? So it's not so clear cut. But yes, no matter what the scenario is, it implies heavily that the public sector, because it was also implied by another caller, and I think by you as well, this isn't just limited to the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Office of Attorney General. I think this is par for the course for a lot of different situations. If this happens in the private sector, it will fix itself because they want to make profit. But we have to demand that the public sector makes reforms and changes because I think this is too widespread. Like Paria, this is just another consequence of bad administration and bureaucracy, etc.
Yes, I think it's rather unfortunate, and that's probably sprinkling the situation that's taking place currently and has been taking place for a number of years. But it's really the Office of the Attorney General who has unfortunately put a big stain on this particular administration. And bear in mind, there are so many other things that have faltered with this administration. But you see the Office of the Attorney General, and this is what I'm saying, perhaps if it is that you cannot win lotto, then maybe you should try your chances elsewhere.
Keaton, quick question before we end. Do you think that the current administration will eventually be able to to stabilize the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Office of the Attorney General and have a AG that has no part of any controversy? Do you think that could happen? This administration,
the current administration
could figure it out and fix it.
I don't know about that. The list of candidates to fill that position disappeared. They filed with the list of candidates disappeared. I can't answer your question, sorry. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's close Talking Point for this morning. Thank you very much once more to Ms. Chrisette Benjamin for her contribution this morning to Talking Point. Thank you very much to the callers, to our directors, and to Sean Michael Small. Sean Michael Small, would you like to close, my friend?
Well, yes, because I would just like to remind our viewers that Talking Point is on WESN, and I'll say it again, the only local television station broadcasted on HD. And trust me, I'm pretty sure all of you that look at WESN could see the difference. But it's not just the broadcast quality, it's also the quality of the conversation here on Talking Point. So, folks, as my co-host will always say, today is a good day to have a good day. But I will just add a little tweak to his finishing line, but only if we make it happen. We'd like to thank everybody again, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Goodbye.
WESN.
Meet me in the Barracan. Make sure you get tickets early, cause them tickets selling already. We have icons, yes, we have legends, and the young upcoming sensations. Become party, social commentary. We have something for everybody. Pressure for them, joker, faker, and lows. Come to Kaiso House.
Kaiso House in the Barracan, Queen's Park, Savannah, January 27th to February 17th, 2023. Tickets available at